Good day, my friends. Good day, good day, good day, good day, good day, and welcome to this Tuesday, May the 14th, 2024. We thank you so much for being a part of us and being a part of our conclave, our consortium, our cadre. Please remember, my friends, that we have 175 days until the election. 175 days until the election. 175 days until the election. I want you to think about that. And the most important thing to think about right now is this election right now. This election right now. We have 6 months, roughly. What is being done? What's the trajectory? What is happening? Who's in charge? Who's running the show? Can President Trump win? Will President Trump win? What is he doing right now to specifically carve out his victory? Not to sit back and watch how wonderful he's doing, but to carve out and direct his victory. What is he doing? What? What is he doing specifically? Tell us. This is the most important thing in the world. Because what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of people who are wonderfully happy over the fact that he appears to be doing well, that the numbers are changing, the electoral college votes seem to be there, everything seems to be groovy and great and everything. But the real problem, the problem that we have to deal with in addition to all this other kind of business, is even more problematic. And that deals with who's his cabinet going to be? How is he going to insulate himself from the diabolical forces that exist within the shadow government? Does he know what he's doing? How is this going to play out? How is he going to play the world? What is he going to do regarding Israel and the UN and Ukraine and others as well? What are we going to do regarding domestic problems, domestic issues? Will he be a prey to? Will he be a part of these conservatoids? You know, the Hannity Fox News group. Does he understand really who his enemies are? Does he understand that if he is to steward the helm into the next century or our next century, he can't use the people he's used before? It doesn't work like that. So that's for later. But the good news is that right now it looks like he is going to win, absent something we can't even imagine yet. That's all. So sit tight, my friends. Let me ask you, please, remind you, please. I ask, I beg, I beseech, I implore you to follow what we're doing, to make sure you subscribe to the channel. Very, very critical. Subscribe to our channel. Subscribe. Like the videos. Very important. Very critical. Very important that you do this. And also keep in mind a couple of things too. That spreading the word is something which is important. Remember, I'm not trying to be, I can't be like anyone else. If I happen to agree with somebody, great. I don't follow anybody. I don't have anybody I'm trying to mimic. I don't have any particular ideology that makes sense to me. It's a case-by-case analysis. And I think you believe in the same thing. So at any event, before we forget, before we not move, let me tell you right now, my friends, that there is a critical issue that is always extant, always before us, and always desiring and monstrously deserving of our attention, and that is emergency food, that is famine, that is food insecurity. Listen to our good friends at preparewithlionel.com. It's no longer a question of if something catastrophic is coming, it's when. And while you still have some control, what are you going to do about it now to prepare? Well, your first step is going to my website, preparewithlionel.com. And for a limited time, take $200 off a 3-month emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply is equipped to help you and your family to prepare. They've helped over 2 million families already. These 3-month kits with ready hour foods provide over 2,000 calories every day with 22 varieties and a 25-year shelf life. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, snacks, everything. And they're sealed inside 6 rugged waterproof buckets, and they're over 120 pounds of food. So take advantage right now and go to preparewithlionel.com, preparewithlionel.com. One more time, preparewithlionel.com. Now, the good news is before us, and I think we need a couple of things that we have to address, which I don't think anybody's even remotely willing to, but I'm going to give it my best shot to remind you of what we're doing here. First, well, let me see. I don't know how to say this. I'm constantly trying to remind myself in a nice way that a lot of people simply just don't know what they're talking about. Now, I know this sounds cruel, and I know it sounds tough, and I recognize the fact that some people might not like what I'm saying, but it's true. If you don't understand how the election works, what are we talking about? Let me start with that right now. If you don't understand how this works, my friends, quick vote. Do you think most Americans, truly, who claim and want to be involved and want to be focused and aware, do you think most Americans truly understand how elections work, how the Electoral College works, how the votes work? Do you believe that? Do you believe most Americans understand the same way they would understand how the Final Four works, or March Madness, or the Super Bowl, or playoffs, or division matchups, and the history of? Do you think so? Do you believe that we have to explain the Electoral College and how it works and why it works and the importance of voting? And I mean, for example, if you could possibly change a state, I don't think California has been red ever. I'm just saying. You have to recognize the fact that your vote counts, but it doesn't. It counts in terms of local representation, but for reasons that we're not going to debate at this particular point. It doesn't do anybody any good to try to change the rules regarding how the Electoral College works. That's number one. Number two, if the people don't understand all of the issues, that's okay. The question is, do they understand enough of the issues, the important issues? Not all the issues are critical. I'm going to give you something right now, which I hope to God that we can do, and I hope to God somehow we can figure out somehow. But in any event, it works like this. I wish that we could have somehow a summer camp, a means of indoctrination, a means of, I don't know what words you want to call it, but a means of educating kids about how things work. Number one, I don't know how this would be done. Maybe I don't think a lot of folks would like this at first, but our generation is over. You realize this. We are of no interest. Wrap it up. Everybody here now that I'm speaking to, you're watching this out of a sense of enjoyment. This is kind of your hobby. Politics is your hobby. The issue is your hobby. You kind of like this, right? You like the people that you've met. You like the people you hang around. You like the attitude. But we are through in terms of being a part of this. You understand this, right? We are through. We're not going to change anything, right? You got that? I know this is I know this is important. And I know it's difficult for people to understand, but we are not the issue. I'm worried about the new generation. I'm sending out a newsletter, and I hope you are kind enough to let me give you a sign up for it. And I'm going to be sending out some things, and people are so funny. They just do not like to be told what to do, and that's okay. And if you like this, let me give this right now. This is the newsletter, and this is the link right now as it is right this moment. Okay, this is the newsletter, and sometimes there we go. Sign up for it. Sign up for it. There's the link right there. And one of the things which is the most important is that 25% of Gen Zers, Zoomers in the British study found that 25% never answered the phone. 25%. I'm going to just give that. Don't know who John Kennedy was. Americans. 25% don't know anything. Let me see if I can explain this to you. To an extent, young people from the beginning of time have always suffered from not knowing a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, but it's true. But 25%, and that's a good, don't know anything. They don't know how to think. And they don't know how to understand what is happening. And one of the best things we can do is to explain right now, ladies and gentlemen, young people, this is how this election is working. This is President Trump, former. He is running. He has to get 270 electoral votes. Here's how it works. Kids, Zoomers, babies, whatever you want to call these folks. What is the minimal number of states that a president can win? It's like, I don't know, 11 or something. But since they're weighted differently, you don't have to win every single state. The idea of the Electoral College is to make sure that only big groups are not focused on, and the smaller states ignored. That's the irony, because it works the same today. But to explain this, do you know, ladies and gentlemen, young folks, fellow citizens, because and not to teach kids or treat kids like they're mutants, but treat them as being important, critical parts of this whole thing. Do you understand the notion of censorship? Do you understand the history of the CIA? The only thing we're going to teach you is something that has either been declassified or written upon or acknowledged. We're not going to guess about nanoparticulates and nanobots and vaccines. We're not going to guess this. We're not going to guess about satanic influences. Okay, that's no. I want to talk about things like Operation, Mockingbird and others, and Ajax, and explain a little bit about how the history, how these folks used to think. I want people to understand that right now, the best thing in the world for you to understand is what is happening regarding the Israel, Gaza, or Palestinian issue. I want you to notice this. What is the truth and what are the people? Let me try this again. What is the truth and what are the people who are on each side conveying to you? Let me explain something to you. Young people, listen very carefully. We, the older population, always mock you, forgetting the fact that you're on an assembly line. And by the way, I would love to know who is the youngest person watching us today. I don't know demographics. I don't know who is. If you look at YouTube stuff, it's like it's 65 plus. Who knows? Whatever. But you are not this permanently frozen child. You are going to be an adult very soon. There's an assembly line. I think you know this. But let me explain to you what they're doing. They're trying to show you that the individuals who are protesting against either against Israel or for Palestine, these are children. These are silly children who have no sense of right and wrong. They're foolish. They hate. They're kind of like anarchic lunatics. The way they used to mock the folks who protested the Vietnam War and my generation. When I remember this very simple, it's the same thing. And what they're doing is they're picking certain people. They will take ugly, fat, tattooed. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people aren't even real, but they will take people who are very, 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 very unlikable, unappealing people, and they'll say, this is the voice of the pro-Palestinian. They'll take a clueless person, and there are some. But for every 23-year-old or 22-year-old or 21-year-old clueless keffiyeh wearing rube, I'll show you a 63-year-old idiot walking around with an American flag at a CPAC convention who doesn't know anything either. Would you like me to do that? I can find anybody you want. So the first thing people have to understand is the way the media work and who actually runs this. Who is there? The marching orders. I want them to understand how during COVID, we saw it front. It is incredible. The amount of information, the collective, total, absolute disintegration of truth and the lockdown of opinion that we saw was something that I still cannot believe actually happened. Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. Could not believe what I saw. Could not believe what I saw. I want people to understand that. How do you know what the truth is? How do you know what the truth is? We had one of the biggest destructions of free speech on college campuses, specifically regarding, Ivy League, based upon an opinion only as to Israel and Palestine and Gaza, whatever. That's it. Nothing else. Not trans stuff. Not universities that were using their medical schools to castrate, to sterilize, to mutilate young people. They didn't care about that. That was of no interest or it's lies about climate change, lies about anthropogenic, nothing. That had nothing to do with anything. They didn't care about the anti-Trump shutting down of free speech. It was of no interest. It was this one particular instance, this one particular subject matter. It was this one particular thing which triggered everything. And that was they wanted to be shown, if you veer from that which is accepted and approved and tolerated regarding this particular subject matter and this particular group of people, you will be crushed. You will be crushed. Your funding pulled. We want to make sure this is a warning shot. Nothing else bothers us. This bothers us. Let's talk about that. They'll talk about the gun lobby. They'll talk about the climate lobby to an extent. They'll talk about the conservative lobby. They'll talk about MAGA. They'll talk about every, quote, conspiracy theory. But if you mention to anybody, is there anything called the Israeli lobby in this country? You got to start with that. And just talk about it. And say, do me a favor. Tell me where you hear anybody on any conventional group talking about it. Somebody's not talking about things. I don't know. I want people to understand, remember, you only catch flack when you're over the target. That's one of the things which is the most important. Do you remember a while back there was something called the bell curve? And there was this guy, what was his name? Not Martin, but it was he wrote something about the demographic differences in intelligence based upon race and demographic. You know who I'm talking about. Oh God, bell curve. Nobody talks about this. Oh, every now and then somebody like, Tucker will come along, or maybe Joe Rogan might come along. We're not talking about the Gaussian curve. We're talking about bell curve. This is Charles Murray and Richard Hermstein. This was one of the things that fascinated me to no end. I said, do you think it's at all possible for there to be biological genetic differences between people as to intelligence based upon their race or their demographic makeup, whatever? And I thought, well, why not? Why couldn't there be? Could some people be more adept at something than others? Well, sure. Yeah. Do you think there are people who look differently? Do you think there are racial differences in the way we look? Stature, height? Do you see any Cambodians in the NBA? No. I wonder why that is. Racism, obviously. No, maybe there's a predisposition against height among Cambodians or those of that particular subsect or whatever it is. Do you think that the rate of basal cell carcinomas, sun-related, are lower in darkly pigmented groups? Lower. Not impossible. Do you think so? Yes. Do you think that skin color, the amount of melanin, may act as a way of protecting the skin against sun and whatever? Do you think that's possible? Do you think maybe that's an adaptation? Do you think maybe that could be it? Do you think that Asian people look differently? Can you spot somebody who has a tendency of maybe being Asian? What do you look at? What do you look at? If I said, hey, do me a favor, be on the lookout. There's an Asian person who is out. Be on the lookout. There's an Asian man who has attacked some people. Be on the lookout. What's an Asian man? He's an Asian. Well, what do I look like? Well, what would you look at? What characteristic would you look to determine who and who is not an Asian? Edie Crowley says, I graduated in 1978, never had civics. Wow. I graduated in high school in 76, and we had something called PAD, Problems in American Democracy, and it was always taught by some coach. They always gave us coaches. Like the coach taught world history. Why does this coach have any history? Knows about Charlemagne or whatever. Anyway, but you would say you would look at eyes. You would look at eyes. Is that racist? No. So here's a question. If you can have physiognomy, morphology, facial characteristics based upon race, differentiated based upon race, if that is true, why couldn't there be differences in cognition, mentation, the ability to access various hemispheres, the ability to abstract, the ability to handle languages and communication? Why could because that's when our own sense of quote prejudice is going to outweigh reality. So I always was fascinated by that. I always was fascinated. Could there be differences? And we all learned this too. Are there differences in men and women? And this is what I want to teach people at a school. I would say there is no such thing as equality. I don't know what that is. This is a little watch, a little clock. This is a duck figurine or some type of representation of President Trump. Okay? These are not equal. They're different. This is not better than this. If you want to make some statement as to your political ideology, go with this, or maybe not. But this isn't going to tell people anything. A clock isn't going to tell anybody anything. These are not better. They're different. Are they equal? No, they're different. Vive la différence. They're different. I don't know where this, and I would start with this, and I would remind kids. And there are people who are coming along and they will tell you there's this thing called equity. And equity means, regarding people, we are going to not look at equality. We want equity means I want there to be a distribution of people in certain populations based upon an ideology that I prefer. I'm tired of all these goddamn Asians taking all the plum science positions. I'm tired of them always getting acing. Remember they had the Scripps Howard spelling bee? Every year it was an Indian kid. Indians won. What the hell is going on with that? Are Indians better adept? Could be. No, it's impossible. Why not? What do you need? I want people to learn critical thinking. Raul Rodriguez, ladies and gentlemen, says born with an undeveloped frontal lobe. I'm sorry to hear that, Raul, but you're friends with us and we love you nonetheless. So don't be so hard on yourself. Thank you for that. I'm kidding, of course. Do you think some people are born talented? You ever see somebody with a musical talent? You ever see that? You ever see somebody who born without the ability to sing or rhythm? Why can't people be like that? Well, that's not fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. What are you talking about? Fairness has nothing to do with it. What are you talking about? So the first thing, so I just want people to understand something. We are all different, but that doesn't mean that we're subject to different political rights. We still enjoy the Constitution. We still say whatever you want. But this DEI stuff is over. And what you're going to do is you're going to have people who are coming along and they're going to say, for whatever reason, and we don't, and by the way, don't worry about why. I know, ladies and gentlemen, it seems counterintuitive, but don't worry about why. I don't know why people do things. I really don't know why people don't do. I don't know why people don't do things. I don't know why people don't do things. I don't know why. Or I don't know why they do things. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's fun to ask, but I don't know why. Why is there DEI? I don't know. Why are people out there saying that there's no difference between men and women? I don't know. Imagine being a botanist. Imagine being a biologist. Imagine going out into the world to be a David Attenborough and say, I think all animals are alike. I don't know the difference between a whale and a paramecium. I'm not going to say one's bigger or better, a better swimmer. No. They're all the same. There's no phylogenetic tree. Can't be into paleontology. Can't be into the developmental aspect of species. Can't do that. Why? Well, because everybody's equal. No, they're not equal. Unequal doesn't mean better. It means different. We're all different. It's that simple. There's also things that are I don't know what even is going on. We have to figure out that there are two people who are going to hurt you, the left and the right. And I promise you, the people who are going to hurt you the most are the Republicans. If you have kids now, my friends, I'm telling you something that you know better than anybody else. The people that are going to hurt your child more than anybody are not those individuals who are in show business. It's not George Clooney. It's people that your kids hang around with, your child's friends, the people that you spend the most time with have the potential of hurting you the most because your enemies you don't hang around. CNN doesn't do anything for me. I don't watch CNN. I used to have a greater propensity of watching Fox News until that just got to be unwatchable. And I recognize the idea. Let me ask you something. If you promoted something, let's say you promote trans, whatever it is, acceptance or trans people or whatever the hell you want to call this thing, whatever, trans, and you can spend your money. Would you spend your money on the CNN crowd or the Fox crowd? Answer, Fox crowd. I always want to contaminate people who don't think. I don't ever want to deal with people who agree with me. What have I told you about running for office? You always talk about the people who are undecided, and those individuals who are undecided and who are not sure about whom to vote for. That's the one you want to talk to, not the people who are going to vote for you anyway. I want to talk to you about that. I don't have any interest whatsoever in trying to convince people that already agree with me. I don't understand that. And the first thing that the people do who want to run the show, the shadow government, is to make you think that there is a difference between left and right, that there is a paradigmatic difference between left and right. And look no further. Look no further than what is happening right now in the way we are dismissing yet again the destruction of human life in the Middle East. We did this in Vietnam. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. Those people are the way. That's the way it is. And these are people who are, oh, I love it. They are religious people. Religious people. So think about this, my friends. Hang on for 1 second. Speaking of the great, great, great people in the great word, listen to our good friend Mike Lindell from mypillow.com, promo code Lionel. It's time yet again, my friends, to hail and salute our great friends at mypillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you'll get a free gift. No purchase necessary. And yes, I know a free gift. It's a tautology, so sue me. But first, listen carefully. Check out their $25 extravaganzas, premium My Pillows, Queen and King, My Pillow 2.0, My Pillow bed sheets, the lowest price ever, sandals, slides, slippers, 6-piece towel sets, 4-pack dish towel sets, simply and absolutely unbelievable. So go to mypillow.com/Lionel, mypillow.com, promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965 and watch how fast Mike Lindell answers the phone. MyPillow.com, simply and absolutely the best. Now, my friend, I also want you to recognize something which is very, very critical to me and to most of us who are trying to pay attention to this right now. And it goes something like this. When speaking to people, understand that they are 3 years old. Seriously, remember, listen to them. There are people who are 3 years old and they don't understand nuance. They do not understand nuance and difference and the benefit. And you can see it the way you teach your kid. Murder is wrong. And what do we do when we have a situation? We don't call it murder. What? We don't call it murder. We call it something else. What are you saying? I'm saying human beings will tell you something. And when they want to change the rules, they will give it a different name. They won't change any circumstances. They'll just give it a different name. Raul Rodriguez says, in 2019, 8 Asians won first place in the spelling bee. And the Asians most probably were Indian, Asian, because that just, all you have to do is just look. Have you seen who are the folks now who are completely changing the world of bull roping and bull riding and Brazilians? Remember the old joke where George Bush, remember, we thought he was stupid, right? We had no idea. We thought he was stupid. He was Schrodinger compared to Biden. In any event, there was a George Bush. They walk in, they say, Mr. President, 3 Brazilian soldiers were killed this morning. He says, oh my God, no. Oh, Jesus, no. And they're looking at him like, my God, he's so upset about this. And finally, George Bush looks up and says, I got one question. How many in a Brazilian? Well, that's kind of a joke. See, when murder is not murder it's murder of the other person or somebody we like or one of ours. That's murder. That's murder. And what's so funny is, if you want to hear the funniest story, listen to this. Listen to what is going on. Listen to how people split hairs regarding what's happening in Israel and Palestine and among. I mean, you have never heard. You've never heard. Well, they did that. Yeah, but we did it. But well, yeah, but no. This is different. This is different. And people honestly believe this. They cannot even understand the nuances. They can't understand that, but we do. No, so you must always demonize the other side, but speak about them in a way that's. I saw something today which is something which is very interesting, and I would love to talk about young people in particular. And I would love to say, do you believe? Give me an example. Do you believe that you can tell somebody too much too soon? There was a time when we grew up a little bit. Well, we learned things a little differently. For example, we had Playboy magazine. Playboy magazine, when I was a kid, that was something that, somebody's father or older brother may have had it. I think, oh my God. And it was sweet and quaint and innocent compared to today. I was reading in Daily Mail or something. And and please pardon me for saying this, but there was something about this quote, OnlyFans woman who was talking about particular sexual positionings or sexual activities that, let me see, how do I say this? Because I don't want to be gratuitous, but I want to explain the story. So she was talking in this story. So this story is about Michael Cohen, Kate Middleton, and then this story pops up, and this is OnlyFans. This person, and there's about 9 billion OnlyFans people, I believe, but this is kind of do it yourself. This is a YouTube porn for regular people. And she was talking about the most popular either sexual position or sexual activity, or the most profitable, and what she's learned. And it was basically, and please forgive me, but it was not vaginal or oral intromation. It was another kind. And she said one of the reasons why she makes more money doing that is because it takes more preparation and the like, up to and including the changing of diet, what you eat, and various forms of irrigation and the like prior to this particular activity. And I'll leave it at that. Now, I am reading this and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to jump on this and say, oh, that's terrible, we should be talking about this. No, maybe we should be talking about this because there's no particular subject that is off limits. But I would like to ask you the question, when you, and this is one thing I want to tell, excuse me, young people in particular, much of what I've always preached is habituation. It's not the subject matter, it's the fact that you're being shown something. And it changes your ability to react to it because you've been shown you've been shown it so many different ways, so many particular times, in so many different ways that you don't respond to it anymore. So if I have this thing, if I tell kids grow up, and I'm saying, remember, your body means nothing, nudity means nothing, your language means nothing. It is very popular for people in your age group to walk around with various body parts hanging out and exposed. You can sell your body really means nothing. It's just a commercial vehicle. So OnlyFans is great and is cool because everybody else is doing it. And remember, whatever anybody else does, that's the acceptance of it being okay. If they tattoo themselves, you get tattooed. If they're on OnlyFans, you do it. If they hook up or whatever, you do it. If they pierce themselves, you do it. Whatever they do, you do. So I would love to ask young people in particular, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Do you think it is in any way, and I don't believe we should necessarily subject this to government censorship, but what do you think about a generation who grows up in the fact when we grew up, I grew up, the most you ever see, they said maybe somebody who's basically topless or nude, and you may not even remotely find this fascinating, but there was a time when pubic hair in men's magazines was absolutely verboten. Not that it was clipped, cropped, shaved, or otherwise. You just never saw anything around, anything vulvar. You would never see anything pudendal. Nothing. This is what it was then. Now, is that necessarily better? I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about people who are raised in this new society? What do you think of? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? This is the thing which is the most. Look at what we're seeing. And there are people right now who know absolutely no form of no form of yes or no. Do you know that the pudendum, which is of course the it deals with the external genitals, most of all women, but it comes from the Latin pudenda, which means to be ashamed. Did you know that? Are you aware of the etiology, the etymology of that? To be ashamed. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, okay. The first thing I would do is, if I had a young person, I would say, now I want you to understand something. You are reading something about activities that deal with the anal area. This is what you're seeing, right? Yeah. And the way I would do it, young people, whatever the subject, whether it's sexual matters, political or otherwise, I would speak in a term that was very, very straightforward. There would be no shocking, nothing involved. They go, oh my God. No, I would just say, this is the way it is. One way or the other. Okay, fine. Okay. Do you understand what you're doing with this? And I'm not talking about any kind of a sin, but do you understand what's happening with this? Do you know what this is about? Well, let me explain this to you. And then I would explain it. And that I would explain to people. Do you know that in our country, what they want you to do is to not know the wrong things? They will keep certain things quiet. They will keep certain things. They'll make certain, you'll be aware of certain things, but they lie to you. They lie to us about everybody, whether it comes to assassinations or whatever. And they will also call things conspiracy theories. Do you know that in this country, when you talk about, Donald Trump is the worst president, I think Franklin Pierce might be. Do you know who that is? Let me tell you about that. Do you know times when people where in our country, do you know that a person can get more votes and lose the election? Let me explain that to you. Let me explain to you this notion of sexuality and gender and what that means. Let me explain that to you. Let me explain to you about what you're eating. Do you know that I read something, there's a 25% whatever increase in colon cancer among teenagers? Unheard of. A friend of mine called me. He's a radiologist. He had a patient who they found an anal cancer. Anal. By the way, ask most people, what's the difference between an anus and the rectum? And most men will say rectum damn near killed him. That's what we have to say. That's part of our being a male in our age group. You have to know the response. You have to know what the joke is, because that's what we do. We respond in terms of rote recitation, kind of a recitation. We're kind of like a Pavlovian response. We really don't know. We love to joke. And anyway, but I asked somebody, I said, what's the difference between anus and rectum? Anus, rectum, colon. Something as simple as that. Basic, rudimentary gross anatomy, not gross as in grotesque, but gross. We have no idea. None. How many people today still confuse areola with areola and confuse areola with nipple? How many people? Everybody. Women do that. How many women refer to their vulva as a vagina? Everybody. Everybody. We don't even know. We don't know anything. Nothing. We don't know anything. So it just occurred to me that in the 45 minutes I've been talking about, I could spend in my ideal summer camp with kids, not to indoctrinate, but to teach them critical thinking. How do you learn something? And how do you learn something new? How are you a quick study? What did you learn in school? No. Did you learn? No. If all of a sudden there's a story about the eclipse, everybody was talking about the eclipse, and I said, why do you believe that people hurt their eyes during an eclipse? Is it because the rays of the sun are stronger? No. So why? And with all the talk about the eclipse, nobody ever talked about, well, that's a kind of a good question. Let's talk. So here's a story, by the way. This just came in. You're going to love this one. This is the latest in Trump's case. By the way, I hate to say it, but the Trump case is boring. Trump trial live updates. Ex-president claims judge is making big money off the scam case as Michael Cohen leaves his apartment to take the stand again. This is the most ridiculous thing. Trump says a judge is making big money off the case and should be removed immediately. Well, Trump wants to be absolutely. This is what he wrote on Truth Social. Virtually every legal analyst and scholar said yesterday at the end of the day that there is no case and that this witch hunt should have never been brought and should be thrown out now. Why wasn't this hoax brought even 7 years ago instead of in the middle of my winning campaign for president? Election interference. The problem is that this judge, Mershon, is totally compromised, conflicted, and corrupt, making big money off this scam and its outcome. He can't render a fair decision. Too much is at stake for him and the Democrats. The appellate division should remove him. Now, you know what's happening with this, right? Trump is dying to be held in contempt. I dare you. Put me in jail. Put me in jail. Is that a good idea? Yes or no? Is that a good idea? Is this a good idea? Answer the question, but don't answer it the way you feel. Is it a good idea that Trump does this? Yes or no? Hillbilly says no. Trump is baiting the judge. Yes, that's true. Is this a good idea? Why is this a good idea? Why is this a good idea? Tell me why. Why is it a good idea? I'm waiting. I want to see what you have to say. Why? Tell me why it's a good idea. Okay. I'm waiting. Maybe it takes a while. I don't believe the judge can. Oh, he can lock him up. Trump's poll numbers will go up. You sure about that? Is that it? Trump's poll numbers? To prove the scam? Why is it a scam? Trump seems to be always know what to do. to call their bluff? More publicity, more distrust, yeah, exposes the corruption. Do you think that's good? Now here's the other way. The other question. Do you think this is the only thing that's available? Is there anything else anything else he can do? Is this the most effective? Anything? That's the question. The question is not whether it's why isn't he writing questions? Why doesn't he have a series? He should have. They should have 1,000. By the way, he's not doing all these questions. People are doing the Trump or the Truth Social Forum. He should have 1,000 questions. Whatever happened to the cocaine in the White House? Whatever happened with Hunter Biden? What about this? What about the daughter? What about the diary? What about what Veritas says? What about this? What about that? Just go through the list. What about Burisma? Why? What about parents who were just blast constantly? Or does that not work because nobody really reads that? Nobody really cares about that. They want to see this. The only way to get anybody's attention is to be thrown into jail because it's so drastic. That's what you need, because he recognizes the fact that the only way he's going to get any attention is if he's actually taken into cuff, if he's handcuffed. To handcuff, please, I beg you, handcuff me. Handcuff me. You understand this? This is the thing which is important. You have to ask the question, is this the only way to get is this the only way to get attention? That's the issue. That's the issue. Is it the best way? Does he win? Does he do better this way? Is he going to be a president? You want to vote for him because he got, hey, did you hear this guy? He was arrested. I'm going to vote for him. Does that make sense to you? Is that all he has? Is that all that he has available? Is that the only thing that is available? Is that the only way? I don't want to double. I mean, maybe today in this work, people aren't going to, they don't care about the other stories or immigration. They're tired of it. This is the way that they'll get their attention. This will immediately seize the attention of everyone. And remember one thing, when Trump is arrested, don't hide the cuffs. Show them, look what they did. Look. This is what they did. Don't hide them. Don't do anything in your power to hide them. This is exactly what he has to do. You understand this? This is exactly what he has to do. Show them, look what they're doing to me. I'm not embarrassed. I didn't do anything wrong. Here, look. They just. Now, I don't want to bring any kind of connection between Jesus, Martin Luther King, and others, but some of the greatest people, St. Paul, have been arrested. That is the ultimate thing that can be done. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I want to say to you. You think about that. Now, this is my newsletter. I want you to sign up for it, okay? Sign up for it. So I can write. I have a wonderful, I have a little piece I'm going to write. Not too much to read. I know people don't want to read. On the fact that kids aren't answering their phone. This is the biggest story in the world. Because kids are uncommunicative. Did you hear that? All right, my friends. Now listen, let me ask you something. Raul Rodriguez says in 2019, oh yeah, yes, what you wrote. Raul, thank you. Edie Crowley, thank you. And the best news is, my friend, let me just tell you something. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win this. But remember, that's nice. But imagine we are having elections in a prison to see who our prison representative is. Hey, Jerry won, but we're in prison. Yeah, it's great. The president can do a lot. But it's like student council. It doesn't mean anything. Because the people that run this world aren't elected. He's a member of a homeowners association. It's nice. He's the neighborhood watch president. Oh, that's nice. That's good. He's with the auxiliary police. Oh, that's nice. He's a crossing guard. Yes, they represent certain forms of order, but in the scheme of things, they really don't control anything. I don't want to get too much ahead of my skis, so to speak, too much ahead of the game, but understand something. When you feel like, yeah, we're really going to win, because let me tell you something, the reason why the country is screwed up is not because of Joe Biden, it's because of the people who allowed Joe Biden to be selected, not elected. My friends, I thank you. Have a great and a glorious and a wonderful day. I've got a bunch of stuff coming up, so please stay tuned and pay attention. You are magnificent. I love you. I hope you've got a lot to think about. And remember, if you've got kids, talk to them. Make sure they can tell you anything. Don't overreact. Speak to them clinically. Ask them questions. Don't lecture them. Don't be their friend, but treat them like you would an adult. Ask them, what do you think about this? What is your opinion? What do your friends say? What are you listening to? I'm telling you. It's great. And one of the best questions is, what are you listening to? I want to share your music with you. It's the best way. Let me see what I like that. Give me some names. I love to hear new music. I love it. I'm a sponge. Tell me what's happening. Tell me what's new. All right, dear friends, I love you. Have a great day. Tonight, it may be 8 o'clock versus 7, so make sure you always stay subscribed, and I'll let you know. Don't forget to follow Mrs. L at Lynn's Warriors. And until later, my friends, remember, I always tell you, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you.